Thanks for tuning into the U-Cara Wall Mount segment. We're excited about the opportunities that this system will create for you, and we're going to take you through some of those opportunities here today. But before we do, I just want to show you how simple and basic this system really is. So the system is comprised of an 8-foot galvanized steel rail. This is going to come in a pack of 10 when you purchase it. It's got holes punched every 8-inch for easy alignment already set up for you. The other part of this system is a vertical alignment bar. It also comes pre-punched. This is 38 5/8 inches long. What this is going to allow you to do is hang up to 7 courses of your U-Cara fascia panels per height of rail. One thing I want to point out, you'll see that there's a little bit of orange here on the end of this rail. That's going to come into play later on. We're going to talk about that, but I just want to make sure you're aware of the difference. On one side it's orange, on the other side it's just the galvanized steel. And as you can see on the top of this cart, we've got several different tools laid out. Nothing here is very advanced or sophisticated. All very basic tools that you've probably already got in your tool trailer or in your truck. Nothing really specialized. One thing to point out is that with the level and the square, difference of opinion in terms of which one's going to work better for you, it really comes down to preference. So I want to show you some of the opportunities that this is going to create for you. And one of the areas we see this being a great opportunity is this job that was done, as an example, as a walkout. You can see this kind of multi-tiered effect going on with the stairs over to the right, the lower patio, and going up into the finished grade at the end ultimately. The homeowner really wanted to change the look. They wanted to maximize that outdoor space, but still have a nice lower patio area. So what the contractor was able to do was basically build a CMU wall. He built the wall up out of blocks. He was able to utilize the rail system to clad that with U-Cara fascia panels. They filled in the back of behind that wall, and they were able to give this nice, clean, finished look. And if you think about the amount of work and what was there to begin with, if they would have gone the route of excavating and digging out all that concrete and taking all those components out, they'd had a lot of time, labor, and money in the excavation process. Whereas with the rails, they were able to go a different route and ultimately give the homeowner what they were looking for. Another opportunity is eliminating secondary walls. So say you put a pool in, and a lot of times after that pool is built, there's going to be an extension and a wall goes up kind of to finish off that pool on the side. This gives you the opportunity to eliminate that second wall and hang these rails directly on that concrete. One thing that's a key here, you want to make sure that concrete is clean, smooth, or at least relatively smooth, in good condition. You can see in this photo, they went through and did basically a skim coat on the wall to make sure it was nice and smooth and ready for the rails. If you've got a lot of undulation or unevenness in the wall, that's going to present itself in the rails as well when you mount them. And as you can see here in another shot farther down the project, they were able to tie that pool wall in with the rest of the walls that they built using our backer blocks. So it was a nice tie-in with the landscaping as well. Another opportunity is concrete stairs or a raised porch. You can see here they've got some of the panels laid out. You can see some pieces of ledge stone. They were starting to kind of get the measurements and things figured out with this. But by mounting the rail system on the riser and then utilizing the tread to secure a piece of ledge stone or attach a piece of ledge stone to that, really able to get a nice look and really dress up those basic concrete steps.
So now Eric's really kind of addressed a lot of the exterior walls. Well, we come across this all the time, and here's an exterior foundation that was put in place probably while the home was being built. With that, you can see that they've attached those rails as well, and then you'll see what it looks like with the finished facade, and those are granite pitch panels. Really dresses up the house, totally changes the look of it, but I really want to emphasize on what we can do with just like house foundations, for example. So you'll take a look at this picture. Here you can see the homeowners decided to add U-Cara to their exterior foundation to dress up their house or look of their front yard. You can see here he's added the panels to the house, but he's also going to take it a little bit further. He's actually added in the U-Cara cabinet system and did pillars around his existing posts to tie in the U-Cara with his house with the cabinet system as well. And another great opportunity, you guys see this all the time in the field. You guys are installing, the patio around the pool. Maybe you guys are installing the pool, but now we have this exterior building for a new pool house. Great example. Hey, let's take an opportunity to grab that work too. So you'll see here that they're actually going to add a nice U-Cara facade to the bottom half of that pool house. And here we get another glamour shot. Beautiful, ties in with the pavers. Now all the hardscapes are all tied in together. You can see a little seat wall in the back of U-Cara, which would be made out of large backers or so on. Here's a personal project that I work with the contractor on. Great example, when he first got to this project, the whole thing was, hey, I need to dress up my pool and let's add this elaborate step and retaining wall system. Contractor goes on and then he says, hey, you know what? Homeowner says, I'm ready to repaint my house. And contractor says, hey, you know what? We got a great opportunity. You can see that brick facade that's on the house now. He actually removes that, installs the U-Cara track and alignment bars to then tie the retaining wall into the house as well. Great opportunity. I don't want you guys to miss anything out. We're actually adding this to help increase revenue and get you more projects that you're not used to having. Here is an industrial building, commercial building, metal studs, a little different than what we're used to with the concrete foundations and a wood structure. So simply doing the same thing. Those alignment strips are placed every 32 inches on the metal studs using quick tap screws, and they're hanging the different panels on as well. Nice glamour shot. One thing I want to point out too next is how the ledge stone is mounted. You know, most guys are just either gluing that or setting that in with a masonry mud to set that ledge stone and hold it. You can see that the contractor here created a nice template to match the U-Cara track system, and then he created a jig within his saw so that he can run that through the ledge stone and actually give that ledge stone an extra secure point to adhere that to the building. So you could still glue that, but that extra cut will actually increase the integrity of holding that to the building. Now let's just really slow down a little bit. We've showed you everything that you can do with it. Now we want you to properly install it the right way. So I want to kind of enlarge this photo here, and you'll see on a concrete substrate, we're simply going to take the fascia panels and hang those on that track and alignment bar. But what we're also going to do is you're going to take your bead of caulk or glue, and you're going to glue that along that center bead. And then when you go to hang that, you'll hang that back on there. So not only do you have the track holding it in place, that glue adds that extra little bit of bond so that that fascia panel doesn't fall off over time. And then the fastener, right? Each foundation is going to use something else. What we've really come to like is this Titan 2 hex head. It's 3/16 in diameter, and then it has its 1 3/4, and you see that as a hex head. There's quite a bit of concrete fasteners out there. You know, some have tapered heads. What we've noticed is when you go to fasten that into that alignment bar or into that track, sometimes when it sets in and you tighten that all the way down, it'll start to flex that track. So we think the nice flat hex head is the screw to use for this project. And also with that Titan screw, what we really like is if you over tighten it or guys are in the field, it has one of the toughest tension and shear strengths out of all fasteners. And then we'll take a look, and here's a wood substrate. And simply, it's kind of similar to the concrete. We're still going to glue that panel to it. But one thing that we've come to see is we wanted to make sure that as we keep fastening into this wood, that we stay with a waterproof membrane, right? So a lot of houses are wrapped with Tyvek. Well, after we start putting all these holes in to that Tyvek, that truly becomes probably not waterproof anymore. A real simple thing that you can get at any roofing hardware store is this Barethane by Carlisle that you can simply paint on like we've done here, and then you will go ahead and apply those screws and fasteners to that. And what's really nice about that is it's self-healing. So when you go to screw that screw, it'll self-heal and close that hole back up. And then it also gets us to the screw, which we are recommending this Tex head that also has that rubber washer just to re-emphasize waterproofing that structure.
So a lot of great info there, and as you can see, you can install this on a variety of substrates. Primarily, you're going to be looking at most likely concrete or wood. Chris mentioned you can also put it onto steel buildings. You got the opportunity to do that there. If you're going into a steel structure, the only difference in terms of fastener you're going to use is you're going to use that Tex screw, but you're going to use the version that's got the self-tapping head so that it drills into that steel for you. So At this point, we're going to kind of transition into the details of how you're going to install this and what this looks like in terms of putting it on. One of the things we've learned since rolling this out in 2020 is if you don't go about it the right way, or if you make some common mistakes or errors on the front end, you're really going to be frustrated with this system. And the thing I want to point out and really stress that's the most important with this is where you start and your first few steps in the process. So as you can see on the screen, we've got a blue line there representing a chalk line, and what we're going to do is we're going to take that first alignment bar, and this is where that orange end comes into play. That orange spray painted end, if you put that end up when you start, you want to make sure you keep that end up going all the way down the line. If you put that orange down, you want to keep the orange all the way down as you continue to install them, because what you'll find is there's a slight difference between the distance from the hole here to the end compared to this hole to the end. So as long as you're aligned with that orange up every single time, you'll be in great shape. So first step, you're going to determine your height. So for example, when we did this, we decided this is where we want our finished height to be. You're always going to work from the high point down, kind of the opposite of installing your retaining walls, or exactly the opposite of installing your retaining walls. You find out where you want to finish, mark a chalk line on the substrate, and then you're going to take that first alignment bar in conjunction with your first rail. Chris, if you don't mind pulling that first panel off for me. So you can see here, this is our first alignment bar. You're going to space those 16 inches in from the end, and then every 32 inches, so every 8-foot alignment bar is going to have, every 8-foot rail is going to have 3 alignment bars, one in the middle, and then one 32 inches each direction. So the next step, once you've got that chalk line and you figure out where this first alignment bar is going to go, you're going to drive your first screw through both the rail and the alignment bar. That's point number 1. The next point number 2, you're going to move down 32 inches. You've got your chalk line as a reference. Your rail is pre-punched with holes. So as long as you measure down and, yep, I know where 32 inches is located, you're going to have a hole that lines up right with that. Again, you're going to put that screw right through the rail and the alignment bar at the same time. These 2 points, you're starting to set your grid pattern that you're establishing for the rest of your build. So it's very important that you get this in the right spot and that you're level coming down to this one. You may want to throw the level on it just to make sure, just to double check your chalk line. Number 3, you're going to move down to your third and final alignment bar on that 8-foot rail, which we don't have here based on the size of this display. But the same thing, you're going to drive that screw through the hole on both the alignment bar and the rail. You've now locked in one of your axes for all these dots in this grid pattern. The next step, and this is really the 4th and last of the really critical important steps. At the very bottom of this alignment rail, you want to make sure now that you've got this all level, you need to make sure that alignment bar is plumb, straight up and down. Essentially what you're doing, you're creating a square with that top bar and that alignment bar. Once you've got these 4 screws in, it's simply a matter of finishing off that next rail. And the way I like to think about it is this process, 1 through 6, this is probably your foreman and another guy on the job doing this. Once they've completed this, they can move down to the next set of 8-foot rails, and the other guy or gal on the crew can come through and attach all the other rails, because all they have to do is line up the holes. One thing to stress is this is kind of like building the base of your wall. You want to spend the time, you have to spend the time to make sure it's true and accurate. You want to slow down and make sure those first 4 screws are right where you need them to be to lock everything in. At this point, Chris is going to show us kind of on a smaller scale, really what this looks like. That's good, that's good.
So kind of like what Eric had kind of addressed is we have our alignment bar. I'm looking for that painted end. And then I have my rail. We've kind of cut this down for display. You can see we've already set the the string line or chalk line. So I'm simply going to take those nice Tech screws with that rubber washer, and I'm going to align this up for my first area. So as you can see, my alignment bar is a little off. So easily, what I want to do is I want to get my next alignment bar in place. Again, 32 inches, slide that in there, get that to my chalk line. And drive that in. Now I can double check this, just like Eric had said prior, check to make sure I'm level. Yep, and if I like that, now my next objective is to make sure that my bottom rail and my alignment bar are plumb. So truly, I can either use that square or level to make sure I'm plumb. Get that where I want it. Or again, I can slide that square along there, check my alignment bar. Yep, I like it. And now add this track to the bottom. And then I still haven't quite created my box or my square. So literally all I'm going to do now is slide this over until these meet, and then get my fourth screw in, and then I'll have my grid established. So now that I've established the grid, now all I simply have to do is come back and have someone or myself add these additional tracks in.
Now, a couple things I want to point out with this, and some common mistakes that people have made, or maybe not even mistakes, just things they weren't aware of. When you look at the rails, you really only need one rail per panel. So you can see we've got these rails spaced out every 6 inches for the standard 6-inch height fascia panel. We only added it at the 3-inch mark because we were incorporating the 3-inch series black granite panels as an accent. But you can see after that we went back to every 6 inches. No need to spend the additional money and the additional time installing them. One rail is sufficient, and ideally that rail would attach to the top groove in the back of that panel. It will work on the bottom groove, but ideally you're putting it on the top groove, so you've got more weight pulling down against your substrate as opposed to the weight kind of wanting to pull away from the substrate. Another thing that we found is a lot of guys have decided, based on what they've been building, we had a project that was a tall fireplace, custom-built fireplace with this system. And what we ended up finding is, as you come up eye level with this product, you can see between the panels. So one good suggestion, if you're coming up high, paint where those joint lines are going to be a dark color so you don't see the substrate. And also hit the rails, the alignment bars, with just a quick dab of spray paint just to cover those up so that shiny material back in the back doesn't catch your eye when it's up at eye level. And then one other thing we didn't mention, we talked about putting your alignment rails every 32 inches. You also want to put screws a minimum of every 16 inches. So even though you don't have an alignment rail on this point, you still want to put a screw in so you've got a nice solid contact and lots of points where that rail is held in and secured. So at this point, we want to show you how this system can also integrate with our backer blocks as well as our U-Cara modular system. So we're going to start building up a seat wall here on the side, and this is kind of like replicating if you were to do a facade on the side of a house with the rail system, and then you wanted to tie a seat wall in coming off the edge of that house as well. So Chris and Andrew are going to mock up a couple courses here, basically like we're building the seat wall, and we're going to show you how these blocks and these rail systems work together with our fascia panels. And while they're doing all the heavy lifting over here with this, I asked Sean to do what I felt he was capable of doing by bringing in the cabinet system and showing us how that would integrate over here with the system as well. No dolly required when a real man does it. Thank you, Sean. So a lot of times you might see projects where you have a grill or part of one of the kitchen features that's coming off of the side of the house. And maybe that side of the house is an old, worn out masonry brick facade, and you're gonna take that off and put the rails on, and then that cabinet's gonna come right off that, maybe straight off of it or off it at a 90-degree angle. Either way, you can incorporate that to make that work, as well as tying in with the backer blocks for a seat wall application. So really, the goal here with this product and this system is to give you guys new opportunities where you otherwise might not be taking advantage of the work that can be done. You know, this type of work when you're getting into more like veneer stone and cultured stone, easier process than doing that, something you guys are more than capable of handling, and hopefully this opens your eyes to some possibilities and we see you using these out in the field. Make sure you contact your local territory manager if you have any questions.